Welcome to GlucoMove. In this quick start guide, we will walk through the basic structure of the app and explain how to start using it properly. Many glucose apps focus mainly on recording numbers, but GlucoMove is designed differently. Instead of focusing only on isolated glucose readings, GlucoMove focuses on connected datasets, patterns, and behavioral context. Through this video, you will see how glucose, meals, activity, and recovery become connected inside the app to create meaningful context and help users better understand their patterns over time. The home screen is designed to provide a quick overview of your glucose patterns. Instead of focusing only on one glucose value, GlucoMove is designed to help users recognize trends over time. Here you can review recent glucose activity, connected datasets, coaching cards, and recovery-related information. The goal is not simply to collect more data. The goal is to help users better understand repeated behaviors and glucose responses. As you continue using the app, the home screen gradually becomes more personalized and pattern-oriented. The home screen is organized around glucose understanding, behavioral context, and connected datasets. At the top of the screen, users can review the glucose card, coaching cards, coaching evidence cards, and 6 primary recording buttons. The bottom navigation menu includes Records, Reports, the Add button, Guide, and Settings. The glucose card is composed of pre-meal glucose, glucose change, and current glucose. The glucose change value represents how much post-meal glucose has changed compared to the pre-meal baseline. The current glucose value displays the most recent glucose reading entered within the past 30 minutes. Coaching cards provide input guidance, completed dataset notifications, medication reminders, and other context-related suggestions. Users can also press the speaker icon to hear coaching messages through voice guidance. The coaching evidence card displays the number of accumulated datasets and the average glucose change value associated with those datasets. By selecting View More, users can review detailed dataset information and related glucose patterns. The 6 recording buttons allow users to record glucose, meals, snacks, activity, medication, and test-related data. Users may also press the Add button to select different recording types more quickly. The Records section displays all user-entered events and connected history over time. The Reports section analyzes recorded information from multiple perspectives, including trends, responses, recovery patterns, and repeated behaviors. The Guide section provides educational content designed to help users better understand glucose-related concepts and use the app more effectively. Finally, the Settings section allows users to access additional features such as account upgrades, medication reminders, data management, and personalization options. Coaching cards are designed to help users recognize repeated behaviors and glucose-related patterns. Instead of reacting to one isolated glucose value, GlucoMove looks for repeated responses, behavioral trends, and recovery-related information. As connected datasets accumulate, coaching becomes more personalized and pattern-oriented. The goal is not to create perfect predictions. The goal is to support better understanding through repeated context. Datasets are only created when activity is included as part of the sequence. For this reason, we encourage users to build connected datasets consistently whenever possible. Over time, these datasets can help reveal personal glucose patterns, behavioral trends, and recovery-related responses. The goal is not simply to collect more data, but to better understand your own patterns and gradually improve them over time. In the Settings section, users can also enable medication reminders and configure reminder times. When medication reminders are active, icons for different medication types will appear inside the coaching cards at scheduled times. Once the medication is recorded, the corresponding reminder icon automatically disappears. Because reminders only appear during configured time windows, they can provide practical support without creating unnecessary interruptions. Coaching in GlucoMove is designed to be connected to visible evidence and repeated patterns. Instead of showing unexplained recommendations, the coaching evidence card helps users review why a coaching message appeared. For example, The app may identify repeated meal responses, recovery delays, or recurring glucose trends associated with certain behaviors. The goal is not to create hidden analysis. The goal is to help users better understand repeated patterns through transparent context. As datasets accumulate over time, coaching evidence may become more meaningful and easier to interpret. Whenever possible, try to build connected datasets consistently. As more datasets are accumulated and repeated over time, you may begin to see how different activities influence glucose change and recovery patterns. Repeated datasets can help reveal how much glucose variation may improve after certain types of movement or behavioral routines. Over time, users can directly observe the importance of post-meal activity through their own data, patterns, and recovery trends. Recording data in GlucoMove is designed around connected context. Instead of recording only isolated glucose values, the app encourages users to connect glucose with meals, activity, medication, and recovery-related information. Even simple records may become meaningful when they are connected together over time. The goal is not perfect logging. The goal is to gradually build datasets that help reveal patterns and repeated behaviors. As users continue recording information consistently, the app becomes better at organizing glucose information into understandable context. To use the app more effectively, users should regularly record relevant information using the 6 recording buttons. Consistent daily recording helps build connected datasets, making glucose patterns, behavioral trends, and recovery responses easier to understand over time. The more consistently data is recorded, the more meaningful and personalized the analysis may become. The Records section allows users to review glucose-related events over time. Instead of viewing isolated entries separately, GlucoMove organizes records into connected flows whenever possible. This helps users better understand relationships between meals, activity, glucose responses, and recovery patterns. Over time, records may reveal repeated behavioral trends that are difficult to recognize from individual glucose readings alone. The goal is not simply to store information. The goal is to make glucose history easier to understand and review. The Records section displays all user-entered events and connected history over time. Users can also adjust search and filter conditions at the top of the page to review specific types of records, datasets, or time periods more efficiently. The Reports section is designed to help users analyze recorded data from multiple perspectives. Free users can review reports based on 1-week and 1-month periods, while member users can explore longer-term trends for up to 1 year. By reviewing reports over different time ranges, users may better recognize repeated glucose patterns, behavioral trends, and recovery-related changes over time. Reports help users review glucose information over longer periods of time. Instead of focusing only on daily fluctuations, reports help identify broader patterns. These may include meal responses, time-of-day patterns, recovery trends, and repeated behaviors. Over time, reports can help users better understand how behaviors, meals, and movement may influence glucose patterns. The goal is not to judge individual glucose readings. The goal is to understand repeated trends over time. The Guide section is designed to help users better understand glucose-related concepts inside the app. Instead of focusing only on glucose numbers, the guide explains ideas such as datasets, timing, recovery, meal responses, and repeated patterns. Understanding these concepts may help users better interpret their own glucose information over time. The goal of the guide is educational support, not medical diagnosis. As users become more familiar with these concepts, glucose data often becomes easier to understand in daily life. The Settings section allows users to customize how information is displayed and managed. Users can adjust units, language settings, medication information, and data management options. Backup and restore features also help users protect and transfer their information. Over time, these settings help create a more personalized experience inside GlucoMove. Recording glucose is one of the core parts of GlucoMove. However, GlucoMove is designed to emphasize timing and context, not just glucose values themselves. For example, a glucose value measured before a meal, 30 minutes after a meal, or after activity may represent very different physiological situations. This is why GlucoMove encourages users to record glucose together with context whenever possible. Even simple timing information can significantly improve interpretation. As you use the app, you will begin to see how timing changes the meaning of glucose readings. When recording glucose, it is important to clearly select the correct timing category, such as fasting, pre-meal, or post-meal. Fasting glucose entries are recognized as pre-meal glucose values inside the dataset structure. Accurate timing selection helps the app better organize glucose patterns, meal responses, and recovery-related analysis over time. Meal records help connect glucose responses with food-related context. The purpose of meal recording is not perfect calorie tracking. Instead, meal records help users understand repeated glucose patterns associated with eating behaviors. For example, similar meals may repeatedly produce similar glucose responses. Over time, this allows users to better recognize patterns between food, meal timing, and recovery. Even partial meal information can still be useful. Consistency is usually more important than perfection. Recording every food item in detail every day is often unrealistic and difficult to maintain consistently. Instead, GlucoMove encourages users to focus primarily on carbohydrate-related impact, which is often closely associated with glucose responses in daily diabetes management. When recording meals, users can estimate and select a carbohydrate level based on the type of food and the approximate amount consumed. To help with this process, the meal input screen includes a carbohydrate level guide. By selecting the help icon, users can review guidance and examples that may help determine an appropriate carbohydrate level more consistently. Activity is another important part of glucose interpretation. Even relatively short periods of movement, such as walking after meals, may affect glucose recovery patterns. This is why activity is included as part of the dataset structure. Glucose management is not influenced only by food. Movement, recovery, sleep, and repeated behaviors can also influence glucose patterns. As users continue recording activity, patterns often become easier to recognize over time. Some studies and clinical perspectives suggest that food and activity may influence glucose management at approximately a 7-to-3 ratio. However, this is not an absolute rule. The actual impact can vary significantly depending on the type and amount of food consumed, the type of activity performed, its intensity, and its duration. What matters most is understanding that active post-meal movement may help reduce glucose burden and support recovery after meals. As the body ages, consistent movement and recovery-related activity may become even more important. In the activity input screen, users can select from more than 30 activity types and record activity duration as part of their datasets. As more activity-related data accumulates over time, users may begin to recognize which activities work best for them, how different carbohydrate levels influence glucose responses, and how much movement may help approach their desired glucose change or recovery pattern. This is one of the core directions of GlucoMove, helping users better understand and manage glucose patterns through connected behavioral context and repeated datasets over time. In GlucoMove, a dataset is a connected sequence of events. Traditional glucose logs often focus on isolated glucose readings, but GlucoMove is designed to connect multiple events together. For example, pre-meal glucose, meal records, activity, post-meal glucose, and recovery patterns can all become part of a connected dataset. Single glucose readings represent one moment in time, but connected datasets help reveal broader behavioral patterns. This structure helps users understand what happened before, what happened after, and how the body responded over time. This concept is one of the core foundations of GlucoMove. A dataset is created when pre-meal glucose, activity, and post-meal glucose are recorded in sequence. To form a valid dataset, the post-meal glucose value should be recorded within 2 hours of the pre-meal glucose entry. Including a meal record can provide even more meaningful context. When meal data is included, the meal entry should be recorded between the pre-meal glucose and the activity event. In this structure, post-meal glucose values are allowed within 2 hours after the meal record. Snack records may also be used as part of a dataset instead of full meal entries. If measuring glucose around every meal feels difficult, try starting with at least one dataset per day. For example, users may choose the meal with the highest carbohydrate level of the day, measure glucose before and after the meal, and include post-meal activity whenever possible. Over time, many users may begin to notice clear differences in post-meal glucose responses when activity is included compared to when it is not. This is one of the core reasons why connected datasets and post-meal movement are emphasized inside GlucoMove. The glucose response test is designed to help users observe how glucose changes after meals. In many cases, the same meal may produce different responses in different individuals. Even within the same person, responses may vary depending on timing, activity, sleep, stress, or recovery conditions. The test structure helps users compare glucose patterns before and after meals in a more organized way. Over time, repeated tests may help users better recognize personal glucose response patterns associated with certain foods or behaviors. The goal is not to judge one meal or one glucose spike. The goal is to better understand repeated response patterns through connected context. This test is different from the oral glucose tolerance test performed in medical settings and is not intended to replace medical evaluation or diagnosis. To help maintain consistent food type and quantity during testing, users are encouraged to use energy gels commonly consumed by runners and endurance athletes. The primary ingredient in most energy gels is carbohydrate, and sugars are typically included as part of the total carbohydrate content. Because nutritional composition varies between products, users should carefully review the ingredient and nutrition labels before testing. Whenever possible, it is recommended to choose products containing minimal amounts of caffeine, electrolytes, fat, protein, or fiber, as these ingredients may influence glucose responses differently. A carbohydrate amount of approximately 75 grams is generally appropriate for a single test session. Most importantly, users should try to consume the same type of energy gel and the same amount during each repeated test. This test is intended to be performed in a fasting state, and because it may rapidly increase glucose levels, it does not need to be performed frequently. Instead, users are encouraged to build regular datasets in daily life and use this test occasionally when they want to observe whether their glucose patterns and recovery responses are improving over time. The recovery effect test is designed to help users observe how activity may influence glucose recovery patterns. For example, walking after meals, light movement, or different activity timing may influence how glucose changes over time. The test structure helps users compare recovery-related patterns in a more organized way. Over time, repeated tests may help users better recognize how movement and timing affect glucose recovery. The goal is not to evaluate one exercise session in isolation. The goal is to better understand repeated recovery-related behaviors through connected datasets and context. For consistency, this test should be performed using the exact same energy gel product and the same carbohydrate amount that were used during the glucose response test. The main difference is that, starting approximately 30 minutes after consumption, users should perform one selected activity for about 20 to 30 minutes. This structure allows users to observe how activity may influence both the 1-hour and 2-hour post-meal glucose responses in a more direct and immediate way. Over time, as more datasets accumulate and glucose patterns improve, the results of this test may also begin to improve gradually. This may help users better understand how movement, timing, and repeated behavioral patterns influence glucose recovery and overall glucose responses over time. For deeper review, GlucoMove also supports a web viewer. The web viewer allows users and professionals to review glucose information on larger screens. Reports, patterns, and connected datasets may become easier to review in desktop environments. The viewer also supports PDF and CSV export features, which may help with long-term review, professional discussions, clinical study, and personal data management. Professionals who wish to use the web viewer can submit a request form through the contact page on the GlucoMove website. To help support better glucose management for app users, GlucoMove currently provides web viewer access free of charge for approved professional use cases. GlucoMove is not designed simply to collect more glucose numbers. It is designed to create better context. By connecting glucose, meals, activity, and recovery, users can begin to better understand patterns over time. Better context helps reveal better patterns, and better patterns can support better decisions. Why do so many people understand the importance of fasting glucose and 2-hour post-meal glucose, yet still struggle to manage them consistently in a structured way? GlucoMove began with this simple question. Glucose management is a lifelong challenge, and it is not something that can be solved easily or quickly. However, with better understanding, better context, and more consistent behavioral patterns, users may be able to support long-term glucose management more effectively over time. Food management remains one of the most important foundations of glucose control. Oral diabetes medications and insulin therapy also play very important roles. In addition to these approaches, GlucoMove encourages users to incorporate post-meal activity as part of their glucose management routine. Even simple movement after meals may help users better understand recovery patterns and glucose responses through connected datasets over time. Thank you for watching. Welcome to GlucoMove.